have your fear, which might become reality. And you have Godzilla, which is reality.
I'm sick of Godzilla.
Wake up, everyone!
There are two things you don't know about the Earth. One is me, and the other is Godzilla.
We're safe enough. No human being can understand that. The monsters on Monster Island can understand it.
Whether he returns or not, or is never again seen by human eyes, the things he has taught us remain.
Welcome back to YHS on Monster Island. I'm Jacob Walsh. With me, as always, Jay Key. Jay, how you doing?
Good, Mr. Walsh. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like I say this every time I record, but it feels like it's been a long time.
It has been.
Stuff gets in the way. There's conventions. You had Kaiju Go. I had a work convention. I had Dragon Con. I was hit by a hurricane and didn't have power for 10 days. All kinds of stuff happened, but we're back. And I'm happy. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy you're back, and I think it's funny that despite being leveled by a hurricane, being without electricity, being without power for 10 days plus, without internet.
No internet. I'm running off a hotspot right now.
But the best part is you still made it to like the 17 podcasts that you're part of. Hurricane be damned.
Yeah, had toy anxiety last night. I don't know what we're doing for YHS tomorrow, but yeah, still recording. You still got to work. You know what I mean? Still got to figure it out. I recorded last week. I did toy anxiety from a hotel.
Yes.
Because I got home from Dragon Con, and I was hoping, I actually didn't have to be here for the hurricane. It happened while I was at Dragon Con. And I was getting alerts. I was seeing all my friends post about the damage and the power. And I had gotten an alert on my phone like Sunday that my power was already back on. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to come home to power. So I get home Tuesday night at like 10 o'clock at night to no power. And then immediately, or maybe it was Monday because Tuesday we recorded, I had to go get a hotel. So then I was at a hotel for a couple days. And then I crashed on a friend's couch for a couple days. But I got power now, so everything's good. Just no internet.
So I'm going to ask the question everybody's thinking. You were gone. You're at Dragon Con. All the hurricane and everything happened. Are all the toys okay?
All the toys are fine.
Good.
There was one toy on the ground, which I was surprised by because I have trees down in my yard. Valdosta is like, if you drive around Valdosta right now, every other house has a hole in the roof. There are trees still in people's house. Like it hit here hard.
Yeah,
it hit hard. FEMA declared Valdosta in an emergency, an actual. You can supply for FEMA right now. It hit really bad. My toys are all fine. I had a Ninja Turtle laying on the floor, but he was fine. And that was it. Just one Ninja Turtle. And I was like, all right, we're good. So everything's fine here.
Oh, well, good. Well, hey, if anybody ever questions that your title, the hardest working man in podcasting, I think the last few weeks shows that you will go to a hotel room just to make sure you don't miss that toy anxiety, that YHS podcast, the YHS on Monster Island. You are going to make it happen. So kudos to you. And, the hurricane cannot match the tattooed titan of Tokusatsu.
Exactly. I think we kind of got a lot to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about some trailers. We're going to talk about some news, some toys, some pickups. But we'll get going, Jay. We'll jump right into it. Do you want to do? I didn't watch anything other than
what we're going to talk about,
which is our main event. So, did you have anything you watched?
I've been really, and this started for those that listen to the podcast 2 weeks ago now, which was just me. If you put up with that, I talked about. I've been really watching a lot of Spectreman, and it really. Not that it started, but it really was elevated when good friend John Yerkeba, friend of the podcast, friend of YHS extended family member, and Kaiju Go special guest was over. And I was showing him some Spectreman because I was like, Dr. Gory's the greatest villain of all time. But I just like, honestly, like every night I can't go to sleep unless I watch like an episode of Spectreman. So I've been watching a ton of that. And I really think it's just because of Dr. Gory's awesome hand motions, and everything has a hand motion. And I just absolutely like, it's like mesmerizing to me.
Yeah.
And I'm watching the fun English dub, who was it, Mel Wells or whoever did that one, and it's just so good. I mean, from Karas and his trench coat, and you weren't supposed to notice him because he's wearing a trench coat, to, like I said, Dr. Gory's hand motions, to the amazing monsters. I mean, I was watching last night the Dustman episodes, and that's a great one to watch. And it's just the dub is so funny. You have this terribly made, cheap kaiju suit trash monster guy, and just him crying out in the English dub, "I'm a man, not a monster. I'm a man, not a monster." Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And I don't know. There's something just so silly and amazing about Spectreman, even like different than the silliness of some of the ultras and some of the common riders and some of the like Fireman and the other guys. Like, I really just feel Spectreman walks that balance. And it is like the perfect show to like watch when you're, especially the English dubs, because you don't have to read anything. When you're like laying in bed and like trying to go to sleep and just watching it. It's so good. It's so good. But that's really it.
Where you watch it? Is that on YouTube or is it? Okay.
Yeah, you can. They have the quality's so, but they have both the English sub and the English dub versions on there. Like I said, I think the English dub. This is when I recommend the English dub because, look, the story, you can survive with the little tiny differences due to the dialogue, but you can't survive without the English dub's theme song. I mean, talk about earworm. It's amazing. And then the voices are they're just so funny. So it's so great. It's so great. Yeah. But yeah,
I've been check that out. Sounds fun.
It is. Spectreman is one of the most fun of all of the like the 70s tokusatsu shows. I think there's no other way to describe it. And like I said, Dr. Gory is the greatest villain of all time. I mean, it's a blonde, green-faced chimp man, brilliant scientist in a pink lavendery suit. I mean, with crazy hand motions. I mean, he can't speak without the hand motions, and it is amazing. I mean, he does. It's like, Karas, we will now destroy the earth. It's amazing.
I mean, sounds like everything you just described. I was like, this could be in any tokusatsu film or show.
True. Yeah. And I really wish Spectreman had they did have a VHS release of some of the English dubs, I think like in the in the 80s, but I would love that series. And it's not Toei and it's not Toho. And it's not Subaraya. It's was it P Productions? It's kind of another one that owns the rights to it. And I don't actually know if like the English dub rights, if it's a separate license or anything. I have no idea. But that's one that I think would be really fun to get it restored and remastered and out there, and especially the English dub version, because I think people would just love it.
That'd be great. Yeah, I want to see that. I'm gonna check a couple episodes of that out.
Nice.
Jay, you got any toys?
I have a super duper light week. The last couple of weeks have been like larger pickup weeks, so this has been a really small one. But I did good friend Ryan Hartzell, who is he's one of the many Ryans for some reason. That's his common name. If you like kaiju in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, your name has to be Ryan. Great dude. Him and a couple other guys that we know, including Chance Priest, the vinyl toy maker. They went in on a space in the upstairs of this antique mall in Dallas called the North Dallas Antique Mall.
Oh, I saw you posting about this. I was checking it out.
Yeah, it's really cool. So they basically, there's this one antique mall, and the downstairs is very kind of classic antique mall, right? Like there's nothing like, oh my gosh, like it's amazing. But upstairs, there's one room that's been there forever, and it's a lot of Japanese movie posters and superhero movie posters. Some are real, some are reproductions, and then some like kind of random collectibles. But like a lot of people go to it because it's kind of cool. And then behind it, the rest of the upstairs was back to being classic, ornate dishes and random weird creepy dolls and things of that nature that you see at an antique store. So they were able to, this kind of group of guys was able to actually buy all of that space behind the one with all the movie posters and basically turn it into this kind of cool collectibles, weird kind of like fun little like clubhouse. I mean, really, because it's all upstairs. So they have like one room that's like really Safubi and vinyl toys and really cool stuff. They have one room that's being made into like look like a VHS store, like I'm assuming an old video store. Like it's all these cool like legitimate like old video store shelves and stuff.
Yeah.
They have one that's like really weird like propaganda, like communist propaganda, antiques and like militaria, but like really kind of weird and like what the heck is this? You know, like almost like a Cold War wacky stuff. You know, Did they have one section that is all Warriors of the Universe from Chance Priest, the toy designer, his line of kind of folk arty vinyl toys. And then just one that's more like, I would say, describe it as like if you went to a comic book store and you had like all the collectibles they have there, that kind of section of like, hot toys and really cool stuff like that. So it's a really cool area. So I went like right when they were getting it up and running, like not all the stalls had been done, but and it's called Leviathan Collectibles. They're on Instagram and Facebook. And so I went there and I wanted to pick up some things because they had a lot of really cool stuff. And I bought two things, small. The first one, just because it's weird, is I didn't know if it's Bandai or Banpresto or whatever, but I bought this little cool Ultraman clock.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it looks like a Banpresto to me, but
it does.
I couldn't tell you for sure.
Well, the only reason I think it might not be is because usually Banpresto spares no space on how to get their logo and advertising out there for some reason. I think you're right. It does look like a Banpresto. It has their kind of style written all over it, but I just love
it goes so good with your Godzilla clock behind you.
Oh yeah. Look at that.
That's beautiful. That's perfect.
But I got that. But the one I was really excited was, so CCP, the toy maker, they've done some Spectreman stuff, tying it back to Spectreman.
Okay.
And they had this set of, and they did in different colorways, Spectreman, Dr. Gory, and Karas, Dr. Gory's henchman, in various colorways. But they did them in these like small kind of SD style, like 2-3 inch tall figures. And they had the all gold Karas one there. And so I was able to pick him up here. And he just looks amazing. I just absolutely love this guy. Yeah.
Looks like a wrestling figure.
Totally. Has this like tunic on with it's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't want to get the other two. I want to definitely, if I can find him, but I just saw him there like all lonely there with all these like Godzilla characters and Ultraman.
Yeah,
like,
that was for you.
It was for me. It was for me. But they got some really cool stuff there. Like, I mean, probably for a physical location, it definitely has the most Safubi in this area. And they have other just kind of like cool stuff. I mean, like I went in there, I thought of you immediately because they were putting up some of their VHSs and they had probably, I don't know, like a couple hundred of them out. And it was like almost all horror and like really kind of obscure, wacky horror. They had some Japanese releases, some foreign releases of them, and really cool stuff. They had some like flyers from like promotional flyers from some of these really obscure movies and stuff. And it was a cool place. I mean, you have horror masks and horror memorabilia, VHS, Safubi. I was like, Jake needs to visit this place.
I'd love to.
Cool. Yeah. But a cool group of people too, most importantly. So if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, go check it out and you probably will find something really neat. It might be a Marusan Godzilla. It might be, some random obscure piece of movie memorabilia from some film that you've never heard of. But it'll be cool.
That sounds like my kind of place.
Yeah, for sure. How about you, man?
That's all you got?
That's all I got this week.
Two things. Whoa. Well, I don't have a ton of stuff, but I do want to say, first of all, I got this really cool shirt in the mail. This Kaiju Go shirt. Jay, these came out really awesome. This is a beautiful shirt, man.
I take no credit for me. It's all the great Chaz Foreman. Go follow him at Chazbro Toys, Chazbro with a Z. And I think there's an underscore in there on Instagram.
Yeah.
He's the maker of Bang Kong and a couple other really cool vinyl toys that are coming out soon. I've seen the prototypes. They're awesome. But he did all the designing for Kaiju Go, including
it's
those
all
awesome
great.
T-shirts.
Yeah, shirt's awesome. Thanks for sending that. Also, Jay, you sent me this amazing signed by Bob Eggleton copy of Famous Monsters here, which thank you. This is awesome.
Yeah. I had a couple different magazines I was trying to get him that I wanted him to sign for, and I couldn't decide, but I was like, I mean, you got to go 54 train biter.
That's a classic.
It's a classic. It's a classic. And I thought that was a good one. So yeah, I'm glad you liked that. That was, it was cool to have Bob there. And I know if you were able to be there, you would have been hanging out with Bob a lot. So
I would have loved it. But I appreciate it, Jay.
Yeah.
So I did get a couple toys. I did a little late. I know everybody else already got these. But my first wave of Super 7 Godzilla Ultimates came in. So I haven't opened these guys up yet, but I wanted to show them off before I actually dug into them. But yeah, Godzilla. I got the Godzilla, and of course we got the Biollante here, which I was really excited about the Biollante being like a rose form, just because not as many of those. I will say, like, I've seen a lot of these in person. I'm not sure what I'm going to do going forward. I'm not going to be a completist on this line. Mm-hmm. And there's just too many Godzilla toys out there to be buying everything. I will tell you for sure that I'm going to buy the like melting Godzilla.
Yes,
because that doesn't exist anywhere else. But other than that, this might be it for me. I got these two, and I got the Comic-Con exclusive.
Yeah, the Art Adams.
But I'm probably calling it a day on Super 7. I think these sculpts are amazing. They look great. But there's just too much. Like I talked about this. I think I talked about this on Toy Anxiety, or I might have maybe I talked about this privately. But there's just too many. There's so like we talk about toy releases on this show every episode, and there's just too much. And I just don't think. I love Super 7, but I'm not sure these are going to make the cut on a because they're so big. They take up so much space,
and they're not cheap. Yeah, they're expensive.
They're not cheap.
Yeah, and we talk about releases, and we're talking literally about like 5% of all of them out there, like the ones that like we kind of like. Like okay, this is what we want to talk about. There's more.
Yeah, it's the same thing that I have to do with Ninja Turtles. I have to pick and choose. Like Super 7, I pick and choose what turtles I want. NECA, I pick and choose because there's so many people making them that it's like it's harder. It's great for us, but it's making it harder on the companies because it's like everybody's like picking and choosing what they want. So but I was happy those came in.
Those are cool.
Happy to see them. I got one more thing, Jay.
Yeah,
super excited about it. You saw this. I gave you a heads up about it, but I happened to kind of come across this on accident. I don't remember where I saw it. I sent you this toy maybe a couple weeks ago, and I was like, whoa, I didn't know they made Safubi of this. And for some reason in my head, I thought it was an older figure. Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to save this photo, and I'm going to research this when I get a chance. And then I happened to be on the Monster Patrol Toys website looking for a birthday gift for Jess. And instead, I bought myself a Triffid.
Happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday to me. I love Day of the Triffids. It's like a classic book. They've made a bunch of movie versions of it, and it's basically just about a killer plants that get out and slowly digest people. But there's a Safubi version, and Monster Patrol Toys it's weird. They had 4 variations of it. 2 of each color, and the only difference on the figure is the tentacles are a little in a different area, but then they had 2 with this colorway and 2 with like a bright blue. The blue ones were sold out. So, and I don't know how many they made, but after I bought this, it said sold out. So, part of me thinks there might have been one of each, or maybe just a few of each. But I bought this and it said sold out after. So I was like, oh, was there just one of these? Yeah. I love Day of the Triffids, and I really love one of my favorite things that happens in the Safubi world is sometimes it crosses over with movies from my childhood that aren't kaiju or are not Godzilla. Same with like, Reptilicus or even Gorgo or some of those other older movies that are not Japanese kaiju. So I was really happy to see. I was so happy about this. I bought it immediately, and they shipped it so quick. I'm so happy to have a Triffid.
And it looks awesome. And that is the Marmot Carsworks one.
Yeah.
Yep. And I know that Monster Patrol out in LA, they had the big Akamatsu-san came over, the president of Marmot came over and had some stuff and that was in like that, and Skullhead and some other ones were in his featured showcase. So I'm guarantee he at least painted it.
When Well, when it came in, I wondered it didn't have a card. It wasn't in a bag or anything, but all it said was Triffid by
Akamatsu.
I'm sorry, he had his name. So I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. That's a cool piece. And you're right. I love when Sofubi goes a little bit outside. And honestly, even outside of kaiju, like proper, regardless of origin, and like when it gets into like things like, I think of the Little Shop of Horrors, the Audrey 2.
Exactly.
And I know that you can argue, especially the end scene that you showed me that was the deleted scene. I guess you could say it's kaiju. And I mean, I have a Snake Plissken from Escape from New York done in Sofubi, and I love it, from Kaiju 1. Yeah. But I love it. That's cool. And that's the fun part about like these indie designer vinyl art toys type thing is like they can cast a pretty wide net, whether licensed or not. But that's cool. Yeah. That's a great pickup.
It is. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. So that's all I got. Listen, we're gonna get on. We're gonna move on to. Let's talk about these. You want to do the news, or do you want to talk about the?
We could do the news because there's a couple toy pickups. Maybe kind of nice
we'll
transition from this.
Sure.
Or not pickups, but releases.
Yeah.
And let me add this here. Let me pop this open. Boom! Right there, right at the gate. So we just had this announced. We, Anraku Ansaku, all the big Vinyl Wars EX lottery exclusives, but we got a new one. We got a Godzilla 55, the Guignol version, the puppet version of that. So this is the first 55, the Gyakushu Goji, that we've seen, and I love it. You can kind of see the teeth, they're prominent, obviously, is like makes everybody thinks of the 55 in the teeth. But they did kind of a base color here, and it's the similar size, everything in the lottery, like all the Metacom lotteries, they run from the 24th of a month to the 10th of the next. So in about 11 days from the time we're recording this, the lottery opens up for this guy. And it's to be able to win the lottery and get them for $115 or whatever, it's ridiculous. So, but I'm so glad. I mean, look on my bingo card, I did not have Godzilla 55 puppet version on there. So this is a totally out of left field for me, but I'm glad they did it, something different as opposed to just another slight color variation on an existing sculpt. So really cool stuff. I was really excited to see this.
I think the puppet version lends itself to Anraku's style as well. So 100%. Hey, everything they do I think is perfect. This is toy line of the year. I love this. I love this fucking toy. This is great.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just really excited that they're open to doing some more things outside. I mean, like I say that, and that's not even fair because they just gave us the Space Godzilla, which is totally new. And that lottery, hopefully they'll announce those winners here shortly. But I think that this is just, like I said, I think it's just cool that they're doing something that was not expected.
Yeah.
So really cool stuff. Everybody go put your names in for the lottery when it opens up in a couple weeks. And hopefully everybody that listens to the show wins one of these.
Yeah.
And okay, so the next thing. So this is kind of cool. So, one thing that we know is every month there's a freaking Marusan Kaiju Salon pop-up shop, and we get lots of exclusives. They did some lotteries for some 450s here, and they did some lucky bags, and they also did some secret colors. And I think that they did some really good work here. So first off, on the 450, these were all of these were lotteries. I believe all of them. They did another 74 450, so that's the big guy. But they did this kind of like light blue, almost like old school Marasani type colorway there. Looks great. They did 2 new jets. They did one that was purely clear and then one that was Aurora, so clear with the cellophane inside. That's the one, the not professional picture that you see there. Yeah. And that had a couple of different eye variations. That looks spectacular. I have the clear with glitter. This is the clear. It's still painted, but like there's nothing inside of it. And then they also did pre-stuff some with cellophane. There's a little typo here. The Ghidorah is actually a 350. I put in 450 because it was a lottery. I should have denoted that. But they did another one of their kind of translucent, this with a kind of a red and gold glitter for the Ghidorah that looks great. That colorway, that kind of red gold glitter, they extended and they actually did a 350 Titanosaurus and Varan as well. And those were in the lucky bag. So you'll see those on the bottom row, Titanosaurus first and the Varan fourth, the one that's once again not a professional picture. They released a new Megalon, and it was done in that kind of the old Bullmark colorway style, kind of an homage to the original Bullmark paint jobs there. You've seen this guy like in the little Irasawa, the Iwakura Bullmark minis that they do, like this colorway for Megalon, but this is the official 350 release. And they did that black and copper kind of cool looking thing that they've done for a few different monsters. They're going to do Varan as well in 350. And those were all part of the lucky bag. But because I know some people that know some people that know some people, I was able to get a sneak peek at the secret color, which was for an 89. So obviously important to me. And this is this wacky blue and purple and green thing on the end, which is just beautiful. But just all over the place. I love it. So I was able to secure one of those. So for those counting at home, that will be number 85, I think.
Whoa.
We'll have four more to
close.
go. And I have another one I know that's coming out that I'll get. So I have 86 on the books, but won't have them in hand for a while. But yeah, so I think this was a really cool pop-up shop and actually had a lot more new, like really new colorways than we've had in the last few pop-up shops. And I think the Jet Jaguar clear with the cellophane, the Aurora, stole the show for me.
For sure. It's beautiful. I mean, all of these are beautiful, but it's the best one.
Yeah. And like I said, that's a great sculpt. Like I'm looking at the 450 clear glitter right now, and it's so well done. I really like their jets. The last bit of toy news goes over to X Plus, and they had a couple really cool releases, I thought. And I, with all the festivals and everything happening, like they've been releasing so much. I wasn't expecting kind of not an out of nowhere, but just kind of like not tied to any exclusive event. But they are doing this ahead or a crawling version, the crawling landing version, which is about 6 inches tall but 15 inches long. So it's big. And that's something that's going to be on pre-order in the US right now on the US Rick site. So we can go get this right now. And it's supposed to be shipped around November. So really cool stuff there. That was neat. The one that really I love is this total kaiju attack set of Zazan and Takong. And I absolutely love this set. I think it's really cool because these are the two monsters battling in the first episode of Return of Ultraman. But this, unfortunately, right now, this is not available on the US site. But I think these are cool. These are kind of that 25 centimeter scale, that 25 centimeter scale. So like, 10 inches tall ish, but very, very cool. And then the last one that they released from Ultraman. So they have X Plus has the Ultra 5000 series, which are these smaller, 17 centimeter ish, 6-7 inch tall pieces for kind of like the Toho Maniac series, but for Ultra Kaiju. And they did one here for Coronia, the blood sucking plant monster that is coming out. And these are great because these are like $50 to $60 price points. And they're really well done, X Plus quality in that kind of 6-7 inch scale. So those were the big releases from X Plus.
I mean, good stuff. X Plus always killing it, dude.
Yeah, I think the Zazan and Takong in the middle, I think the unpainted prototypes are at one of the recent Wonderfest or Superfest ones. I think we saw it in the whatever the one was that had like all the Ultra Q, Ultraman, Ultra 7.
Pretty
like
recent. Yeah. Very recent. That was really cool. So yeah, that was kind of it on the toy front, aside from 1,000 other things that didn't make our cut, but there's a ton out there right.
that are really cool. And I'm sure the moment we hang up from this, like 6 more things will be announced.
Of course. That's how it goes.
But then I figured after that we could talk a little trailers.
Yeah, we'll talk about these trailers. I know everybody, minus one, this trailer came out weeks ago at this point, and I know a lot of people have covered it. We're not going to talk. No. We're not going to go into depth about it at all. We'll give our general feelings. Jay, I don't know about you, but I a little bit when I first found out that this was the design they were using. Me, like some other people, was a little like, all right, would have preferred something different. It's definitely not the feel that I thought we were going for, but this full trailer I think looks great. I'm super excited. It looks really gnarly, and it looks like a lot of people are going to die, and it looks like really depressing, and Godzilla just looks brutal. And I'm so happy that I'm going to get to see this in a theater very soon.
Yeah.
What'd you think, Jay?
Yeah, I not too dissimilar. First off, I was like, I was already super excited. So there was very little, I think, that any trailer, good or bad, was going to do to kind of change that trajectory of like, I'm excited. And as I get closer, I get more excited.
Yeah.
I thought the teaser was great. I thought it was fine. Like I said, if I was at a 10, I stayed at a 10, right?
Yeah.
This one, so about the suit, I agree with you. I think knowing that it was that suit, I like the suit. Don't get me wrong. In a vacuum, I like the suit.
Yes.
I say the suit, the design. So used to saying suit, right? I like the design. But you're right. Like I was like, does it fit going back? Does this like feel like something that would be in a movie set in, the 40s and 50s in that era? And I think that was something I was like, I don't know. The teaser didn't really do anything to like persuade me either way. But this trailer, I think, did. I think it felt like it does feel like it's part of that world. And I think I'm very optimistic now. I was cautiously optimistic. I'm very optimistic that it's not going to take away from feeling like you're back in that era. You're right. It looks brutal. It looks sad. It looks depressing. It looks like what the topic is really supposed to be about. Yep. But yet it looks, in some ways, it looks very beautiful. It looks like it's really well done. I love, and I put the little image on here on the bottom, that end where it looks like it's just the skin is kind of melting away. Like, people have surmised, like, could that be like the oxygen destroyer? Could it be them, from the beginning of Godzilla, the end of Godzilla, something else? Who knows? I think it looks so cool. And once again, brutal. And just, I don't know. I think this movie is going to be really, really good. And this trailer only supports that. So I liked it a lot.
Yeah, me too, man. I can't wait to see. I don't want to see any more trailer. I don't want to hear anything else about it. I just want to see it on December the 1st in a theater.
That month's going to be tough when things start leaking in Japan.
Because it comes out in November, right?
Yeah, it comes out on Godzilla Day, I think, on the 3rd. Yeah. So I think that's going to be a really hard 4 weeks. But
hey, by the way, I don't want to get into this. I know that we only have like 5 or 6 months left of this year. Not been a really good year for Megalon's birthday. I just want to say that. I know nobody's like listening who matters, but like I know they're working on the Jet Jaguar suit, but I want Megalon. Jet Jaguar's getting all the goods, and I love him too, but it's also Megalon's birthday, and shame on everybody for not doing more Megalon this year. All right, Jay, so what do we got? What do we got? The Monarch Legacy of Monsters trailer also came out, and I will say this looks amazing to me. It looks like you're right back in 2014 Godzilla, which is when it kind of takes place, but it has that feel to it. The movies after 2014 got really silly really quick, and I still love them, but this looks like it firmly fits in the 2014 universe.
Yeah, I would say this, whereas the Godzilla -1 trailer equally as good, didn't necessarily move the needle for me because I was still like super excited for it no matter what. I think the Monarch Legacy of Monsters, I wasn't not excited for it, but it wasn't like I wasn't going like, oh my gosh, I can't wait till whenever it drops. This trailer, I think, moved the needle more for me because I was like, oh no, like this is gonna be legit. Like this is like, I mean, it's like, oh yeah, I guess I didn't until I saw him on screen. It's like, oh yeah, Kurt Russell's in this one. Oh yeah, the greatest action star ever.
Russell is in a Godzilla show.
Jack Burton himself. I mean, yes. So Kurt Russell, in the clips of like the John Goodman character, obviously, I think that was awesome. It kind of ties it back to Skull Island and stuff, and the imagery also looks serious and depressing, and you put yourselves after, okay, Godzilla in 2014 happens, then what? Like, we've heard like in 2019, like we know like the main character's son was killed and all the devastation, kind of the collateral damage of monsters of Godzilla rampaging around San Francisco. But everything else that happened between that and 2019, like it's going to have more of a 2014 vibe. And I think that's perfect because you're right. I think they did steer away to the point where 2014 almost feels like it's in a different continuity. And I think this takes us back and grounds us. And I hope it falls somewhere between 2014 and Skull Island in the sense of like grounded, real, whatever. And then but yet still like really well done action and other things of that nature, like, and bring in other monsters and stuff. I don't know. I'm very excited for this now, and I was not expecting that until this trailer dropped.
Yeah. Also, it looks like, I'm not 100% for sure. I would have to go back and like really analyze, but this scene with Godzilla in the school bus here, it looks like it's on the bridge. It's like it looks like it's the scene from Godzilla. In Godzilla 2014, he crashes through the bridge and there's a school bus. And I'm like, and it looks like it might be the same scene through a different
different characters'
eyes.
That
which
would be cool.
Is awesome. Yeah. So I'm not 100% on that, but I think that's what's happening in this scene because I'm pretty sure they show him that they're on a bridge here. So
I did not pick that up. That's awesome.
I'm excited, dude.
Yeah, this one is one that I wasn't planning on it, but I absolutely am going to go back and watch 2014 and maybe Skull Island 2.
Yeah.
Leading into this.
Do you know when this comes out?
It said fall. I don't think it gave us a date. So soon.
It's fall.
Yeah, it is. Technically, it is.
You're right. They know that, but it's fall. Yeah, we're living in a good timeline with all this Godzilla. There's so much Godzilla stuff coming out, and both of these look great. I'm so 100%. Excited. Yeah.
But that's it. Yeah, I don't have much more on these. I mean, like I said, the Godzilla -1 kind of fell in that weird time where you were out and we didn't have a chance to talk about it. And I just feel like we needed Jake on the record talking about his opinions on the -1 trailer.
Had to. Well, it's great. Looks great. Well, listen, talking about living in a good time for Kaiju and stuff coming out, we got a new Gamera show. What the fuck? It's the first Gamera thing since the 90s. I don't remember when
Gamera the Brave. Yeah,
did Brave come out? Was that still in the 90s or was it 2000s? Yeah. Okay.
It's 2000.
So this is the first Gamera thing we've gotten in a while, done by the same guys, the same group who did the Godzilla anime trilogy, for better or worse. I compared it to that a lot while I was watching it.
Yeah.
But also, I really like the anime trilogy. So
yeah.
But we're gonna get into this, man. Yeah. We watched it I watched half of it today. Jay, what did you think, man? How do you want to do? Do you want to go into the categories or talk about it that way?
We want to do something a little different today. Not that we'll do this for everything that's not our style, but on this one I thought it's so crazy that it has been 17 years or so since we've got a Gamera movie, like our Gamera property, if anything. Like, let's really dive into it. And also, I think people are very vocal about this out there in the community, positively, negative, whatever it might be. So I think it's kind of because it's just so neat that there is another Gamera one. And so I thought let's break it down, kind of the different aspects of this, because with an anime, like I think of like Singular Point, I think of Skull Island when we reviewed it, or Ultraman when we talked about it. It's like I like this, but I didn't like this. I like this, I didn't like this. So let's go and break it down into these little components and let's talk about each one, and then kind of give our overall grade. So these are the categories that I picked that I thought would kind of capture most of it. Was the visuals, the animation, like the style, just the overall look and feel of it, the kaiju design, which probably talk the most about because it's the most important to us, the kaiju action, the music, the score, the intro, all that good stuff, the characters, the human characters in this case, and then the overall story and plot, and then we can kind of give our overall grade. So those I thought were the main components that you can do really well in one and poor in the other. That's allowed, but I thought that would kind of capture everything.
Yeah, cool. And I don't know, we didn't really talk. You didn't tell me how to rank it. You just said rank them, so I gave them all like a 1 through 10 number, and we'll just go from there, I guess. You
could have done that. You can do letter grades. You can do gold stars.
Well, I did. Whatever. Okay, so for visuals and kaiju design, I'm going to do numbers. I'm going to do stars for music and score, and then we'll do letters for story.
Yeah. And then we'll do 1 to 100 for one, and thumbs up, thumbs down. It'll be amazing. So I want to sort of the visuals and animations, and the images have nothing to do with like, you don't have to talk about these images. I was just putting some ambiance on there of some of the kind of reminding people what this thing looked like. But the animation and visuals, I know has been probably the one thing that's been talked about the most by people and kind of the most debate. So I was curious, what did you think overall of just visually Gamera Rebirth?
So I gave it out of 10. I gave it a 7. Okay. And I kind of went up and down with it because I do think it looks fine. There are times, and I'm going to use this. I'm actually going to use the Scouse picture as an example. Okay. that looks like a computer screensaver from like that doesn't look great.
I thought it was in Doom. I thought it was in the game.
And it kind of goes back and forth for me. There are times where it doesn't look great. There are times when I'm like, oh, this is perfectly fine. If I was picking, if I had my choice, I would have loved this show to be in the Singular Point style animation. I think Singular Point looks awesome. I think this is pretty much exactly what they did for the Godzilla anime trilogy. And I think it works better in the Godzilla anime trilogy. And I don't know if it's because the creatures are a little more slow moving in that. And it's like, I don't know what it is, but the vibe feels better in the Godzilla anime than this.
Yes.
But I don't hate it. I don't think anything's ugly. You know, there was only a couple times where I'm like, that looks a little cheap. But like, I'm not like, I wasn't too picky over it. And most of the time it still looked pretty good. So that's where I landed.
Yeah. So I was right there with you. I was going back and forth. I ended up, because you gave it a 7. So I'm going to give it a B. And I went back from a C and a B because like everything you said, I agree 100% with. Like I really do. Like I think like there's the screensaver, baby Gauss, Gauss, whatever he is. But then overall though, like I thought the animation like was overall okay. It didn't take at no point other than the baby Gauss did it take me out of the thing. And I'm not a anime person. It's not what I gravitate to, so I don't have a big of opinion on it.
Sure.
That's never going to be the main. You know, if I weighted each of these categories, this would probably be right at the bottom because at the end of the day, as long as I could tell kind of what's going on. But I agree. I think it did look better in the anime trilogy. But I also, you know, I think back to growing up. It's like we view the quality of special effects in Toho here and in Daiei. I know it's Kadokawa now, but like Daiei here. So like the fact that it wasn't as clean as that one did not bother me as well because I'm like, yeah, it's Gamera. It's not supposed to be.
Right.
But overall, I thought there were some really cool visuals and shots and some of the stuff I thought was excellent and it did not take me out of it. So I had a hard time giving it anything lower than a B, but it would be a B minus. It would be an 80, like an 80 proper.
Yeah. An 80. Yeah. There you go. Cool.
But yeah, it was good stuff. But okay. So next on, this is the fun one. So Kaiju design. I mean, you had the 5 Kaiju, you had Gamera, all designs of various levels of kind of, well, almost all of them are pretty radical redesigns other than Gamera. Kind of. Yeah, and Gauss and Gamera, yeah. So I figured on this one, talk to me about the ones, if you liked them, but also like which ones you liked the best, which ones you didn't care for, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, I gave Kaiju design a 9. 9 out of 10. And I mean, listen, I do like watching it, the fact that they have, you know, Zigra, I've always really loved Zigra.
Me too.
He's silly and Virus the same. Like I love those two. And I really love their silly old, you know, design. I love them. But I know you can't do that.
You can't do that.
Something that doesn't work in something like this. So for this kind of thing that has more of a Heisei feel to it, I think the designs are all perfect, except I hate Gauss.
Yep.
And you know what? Yep. I think I hate Gauss, period. That was one of the things, the only thing, like, I was super into the show until we get to the second to last episode. I'm sorry I'm getting into story a little bit.
No, that's right. Oh, yeah.
We get into the second to last episode. They're building Virus up to be like, I'm like, oh shit, he's gonna be the big bad of the show,
and not the one I was expecting, right?
And I was so into that. He shows up, and I'm like, he's terrifying. He still looks like Virus, and I'm like, he's gonna fucking fly to space right now. I was like, I'm so into this.
Spinning, even the spinning style,
Dead all of a sudden out of nowhere, like too easily. I think Gamera took him out. And then the final episode, I was like, what are they doing here? And it was like, oh, we're just doing Gauss again. I'm tired of Gauss. I don't think I'm not intrigued or interested in seeing Gauss ever again. I think Gauss is the most unoriginal design of any of the kaiju. It's just Rodan, you know?
Yeah.
And I just don't care for it. And I know they tried to make it like a super Gauss at the end, but I was like, any of the other kaiju were better looking scarier and feel like more formidable foes than the Gauss.
For a moment, I thought when Virus was killed so easily, and I knew like there has to be something else. I was like, oh yeah, they didn't announce there's one other Showa era. Is Barugon going to come out? Is there going to be a redesigned Barugon? Like I thought that was going to happen, and no, you just get a slower zombie-looking 4-eye Gauss. Yay,
that worked against the show. The last episode worked against the show for me, except I do love the design of Baby Gamera. Baby Gamera in the very end, I was like, that is the best thing I've ever seen. Give me toys of that. I hope it exists. But otherwise, all the kaiju look great. I loved all the kaiju. Dude, fucking Giron was like, I was like, what the fuck is he do? They're all badass.
Yeah.
The only other thing I will say that kind of kicks into story a little bit is that they all are kind of defeated pretty easily by Gamera.
Yeah.
And Gamera defeats a couple of them in the exact same way, splits them in half. And then there's also a thing that happens. Sorry, I'm jumping around.
No, that's fine. It's totally fine.
There's also a thing that happens where at least 4 episodes in a row, Gamera saves a kid by shooting a fireball at a kaiju from off screen right in the nick of time. It happens 4 times.
Yeah.
All right, those are my nitpicks. Kaiju design 9. What did you think of the kaiju designs?
So we're pretty close again. I gave it an A.
I think a 9 is probably an A, right?
Yes, it is. Yes. So everything you said was great. I agree with it. The Giron design, not only the functionality of him like whipping himself around and kind of that creates it to use the knife head effectively.
His mouth looks so cool when he opens his mouth. I loved it.
And they found a way to modernize the shurikens instead of like just the throwing stars coming out of his head, like that they come down his like spine, almost like
bone.
So cool. I thought that was awesome. I think Viros was a great design. I think Jiger was an amazing design.
Yeah,
I liked the Gamera design, and it grew on me as it went along. Gauss to me was a neutral. It was just kind of like, okay,
it's Gauss.
I didn't love the Zigra design. I didn't hate it. I thought like I wasn't like looking for it to be like the old one. I know it, to your point, you can't do that without like kind of taking yourself out of the series. There's something that it just seemed like it was like water Gauss, it was underwater Gauss.
I wish he was a little more shark like.
Maybe I wanted some more sharp points. I wanted some more like kind of, I don't know. We don't need xylophones or anything like that, but I just it was fine. It wasn't bad. This is not saying it was bad. It just was okay. The worst one to me, I line with you 100%, was S-Gauss. I just thought it was just kind of but everything else was really, really good. Jiger was awesome. I thought the movements that she had and everything were awesome. And like I felt almost like that was the hardest battle of Gamera was Jiger. And the funny thing is, like, in the Showa series, it's the hardest battle too, like the one that probably gives Gamera the most trouble. So I thought that was kind of cool, but everyone was they were on point with kaiju design. I absolutely loved it.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay, so the next one is kind of taking that, and let's talk about every time we look at kaiju movies, we watch kaiju movies, you have the folks that are just, it's all about the kaiju battles, the kaiju action, whether it's against military or against other kaiju or whatever. So what did you think of how they portrayed the fights, the battles, all the kaiju action in this anime?
So as far as the number goes, I gave this an 8.
Oh, nice.
I thought it was pretty good. There's lots of it. There are a couple episodes where I did find myself being like, all right, let's get on to the Gamera. You know what I mean? There were just a couple where I was like, I don't care about these kids anymore. Show me Gamera. I want to see Gamera. I would have given it a higher number if some of the battles didn't feel exactly the same. I was just saying, Gamera pulls out the same tricks. And I know it's hard whenever you're doing 5 episodes or 5 different kaiju. Gamera only has so many tricks. Yeah. But he's doing the same thing. He's killing these villains in the exact same way. I think he could have had a way better battle with Virus, especially how cool they made Virus in this version. Yeah. And they just kill him really quickly. So I'm giving it an 8 for that. But whenever they're battling, I thought it was all great. It was all really fun stuff. I could watch more of it. And I hope I do get to watch more of it.
Yeah, so I'm very close to you, and the biggest takeaway for me, which I didn't factor into the rating, was like I wanted more of it. Mine was just like of what we got, how did you like it, and what we got, I thought was a B.
Yeah.
And I think the
We're
highlight.
the same. We think the same on everything.
Oh,
just about.
for now.
Okay.
Let's just say, I have a feeling we might have a great schism and maybe ruin the podcast here in a second. The podcast partnership.
Okay.
No, but I thought the highlights were the Giron battles, just because the unique way that he can fight.
Giron was great.
And the Jiger battles are my favorite too.
Yeah.
But you're right. Viros was a disappointment because they built him up for so long, and it was almost the weakest of the battles, and he can do so much really cool stuff. And I think Ziggler was kind of a weak battle. So what we got, is a little bit of a mixed bag, but overall, even the bad ones were fine and they were cool. But Giron, I think, was like the star of the show, just like him whipping his body around and flipping up and using his giant knife head. Like we haven't seen a kaiju battle like that.
Yeah,
I thought I was like, this is new. This is
he seemed the most dangerous to me.
Yeah,
like the way he's so spastically jumping around, and that was the only time I was watching it where I was like, oh, this is scary. Because like usually with kaiju, and when you're watching these movies or shows, usually the kaiju's way over there, and it's like, oh, but he's like, now I'm over here, now I'm jumping, and I'm here, and it was just like, oh my god, what is he doing? And he's like. He's also like targeting people, like specific little people. And I'm like, the kaiju don't usually do that. So yeah, he was great.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. So very happy to see the action. Like I said, would love more of it. So maybe they just need to do like a fighting game or something. Okay, so this one I'm going to lean a little bit on you on this one. But I know a lot of people have been chatting about the score and the music, both the score, but also like the soundtrack and stuff as well. From the intro theme. That we got to the change in music when Gamera would approach for the big battle and everything in between. So as a music guy, as somebody that knows music, that plays music, that has musical theater in their blood, what do you think overall of the music in the series?
Oh, this got my lowest score.
Oh, okay.
I gave it a 5, just because like there was nothing bad about the music. But there were no times where I particularly were like, whoa, that is a cool. It just sounded pretty generic to me.
Yeah.
And you know, when you're talking about kaiju and you're watching like Godzilla movies where, you know, Godzilla and Mothra and they all have, like all these creatures have their own themes and they're very, very distinct. Yeah. And like they've been putting the same Godzilla theme in movies for 45 years and like
we still love it.
It's amazing. And when you hear it, it's just like holy shit.
Yeah.
But all of this just felt like generic anime kind of music to me. And the opening theme, I couldn't even tell you what it sounds like, dude, because I watched it on the first episode.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was too long and it showed you too much of the show in it.
Oh, yeah.
So I never watched it again. I was like, whoa, why is this showing so many battles in it? I skipped it after that every time. So I never watched the intro again. And you know, I gave it a 5, but it's not bad. It's just there was none of it stood out to me.
Yeah. So I think we're close because 5 out of 10, that's a 50. I gave it a D. And it was for almost the exact same reason. This is setting up perfectly for when we have our great schism. I thought the intro theme was like generic anime. It wasn't bad. It was too long. You're right. Like I kind of fast forwarded, and I kind of chuckled, and I wasn't supposed to. I laughed when it would turn into like some like, you know, like hard rock music when Gamera would come in, and every time like I just thought it was like, what? Like it was almost like pro wrestling-y. Not that it was bad, but like as they're trying, you know, with the story and everything to be serious and then this is important. And then you get that. It just was kind of like, it took me out of it for a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, there was nothing here that I was like, oh, this is great. But there was nothing that was like, I'm not going to watch it. And this would be at the bottom of my probably ranking system as far as like where I would weight these. It would be this and probably the animation style like matter the least to me. Music for me is like, it's critical. And when it's really good, it can take something from great to like timeless. This didn't like hurt it. it just wasn't like, it didn't help it either.
It just seemed like it was maybe far down on their list as well. They were just like,
I agree.
okay, we also need some music in here.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so that gets us into the final two, which would be this would be the characters, and obviously in this one it's more the human characters. So I was curious your overall thoughts on how they portrayed these folks, what you thought of these characters, and their development over the 6 episodes or however many episodes it was.
I gave it a 6 for the characters, and I mean, there were a couple times where I was bored with the human characters, and I was ready to jump into the kaiju action. Also, like out of the like 4 kids, I think you could have made it 2 kids instead of 4 and gotten the exact same fucking thing. I was like, I don't even know which kid's which at this point. What's their names? I don't fucking know. I don't think you needed them all. I did like, though, Gamera has always kind of had a kid protagonist, and I like that they kept that, but then still kept the story a little more adult, a little more violent. They kept saying fuck. There's like
those kids swear.
It felt a little more. It didn't feel like you're watching a kids movie or something.
No.
All of the other secondary characters, I just didn't really. I don't know. Whatever. They were fine. Like some of them were interesting. The guy in the middle here annoyed me most of the time. I did like how you kind of think the woman here is
Himiko,
like maybe a good guy for a bit, and then she turns out not to be. But yeah, overall the characters, like I said, I watched it today. I couldn't tell you anybody's name. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it was fine, but I just wasn't. It was good for a cartoon. I don't know. I didn't find myself caring about any of their fates that much. When the one kid sacrificed himself, I was just like, all right, cool. Let me see Gamera though.
Yeah. So I went ahead and I gave it a C. I actually it's hard because this bleeds into story and stuff as well. But of the kids, I thought they set up the main kid, Boko. I thought they set him up really well. But I didn't know whether I was supposed to like connect with him and feel, like he was kind of be the main protagonist, or it was supposed to be Joe, the kid that sacrifices himself, right? I thought like
I felt like that a couple times for all 3 of the main kids, other than the kid who's the bully at the beginning, and then Brody, friend. Yeah. Other than him, there were times where I'm like, which one of these kids is the main kid?
That was a hard part for me. Yeah. And so in the third one, Junichi, like the whole we think she's a he until she's a she. I mean, they did that gimmick, I know, on lots of animes, and I mean, I was watching Voltron Legendary Defender not too long ago, and they do the same thing. But that kind of doesn't go anywhere. But once again, that's more story. It's just like, okay, neat. And then it's like, well, does Brody now like her? But that doesn't, ever really
doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah. I thought to me, the characters, just on a vacuum, looking at them, their kind of character sheet, writing them up, fine. It's fine. You can work with that. I don't think the story does anything to help them. But I just thought you have generic military dad whose son's trying to plead. It was a little bit of central casting, but I think the biggest issue for me was of the kids. It's a Gamera film. It's okay that they cuss. It's okay that it's violent. I just need to know which one I need to latch onto. Yeah, because that's important in a Gamera film. Right. And I thought that connectivity was lost. And so overall, the characters is it was. I think there was a lot more missed than there could have been. If it was tweaked a little bit from a story perspective.
That's what I'm saying. It could have just been 2 kids. It could have been 1 kid, and you still could have done the same story. So, yeah. Oh,
that leads us into the final thing. Overall, the story, the narrative, the plot, the humans, the kaiju, the scene, the everything, the global stakes, the macro stakes, the micro stakes, everything in between. What do you think of the anime story overall?
All right, so I also gave it a 6. I don't think it's a bad story. I don't think there's anything There were a couple times, once you find out what the plot is, the main where all these monsters are coming from, it felt pretty generic for a kaiju film. Oh, there's another civilization that wants to take over Earth with monsters. We've seen that a million times. But I don't really count that against it because like that's all it needs to be. It doesn't need to be crazy. It is a weird plot when they're like, oh well, some of the kids are special, and if a monster eats a special kid, then it can do that. And that I think I was like, you're trying to overcomplicate it. Listen, Singular Point is like one of the craziest, most complicated, but best plots in any kaiju. It's great. I think Singular Point is amazing. It gets a little confusing in here, and I think if they could have streamlined it and just went super generic with, oh, it's a civilization that is bringing these monsters back to take over the world, they could have left it at that. And even though that's super simple and it's been used, that's all New Gamera needs. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. Yep.
So I thought we'd have a bigger difference. We actually don't. I thought this was. I thought you were gonna be initially. I thought you were gonna be in like the B range, and I was gonna be down here. But I gave it a D.
Yeah.
And here's why. Everything that you said, I agree with.
Yeah.
I think that I think there's a lot of like the little things that like they never progress on, they never explain it fully. One being like the kaiju eat the kids, and there's a special kid that's a code holder or whatever.
Yeah.
What does any of that mean? Why?
What does it mean?
Why do these kids get that? I think that like when you have a basis for that's kind of the core to the global of how all this kind of stuff works, and we don't understand it. It's like I think of like fantasy films when like you don't have the rules around like the magic, like how do you know what can and can't happen? Like I just felt like very confused on that, and that would not make it a D on its own. Like that's just like okay, like that might take it from an A to a B, right, or a B to a C. The reason and this is where I disagree with a lot of people out there, and the reason that like this, I think the story lends itself to needing to be redone totally, is I get, and the Heisei Gamera thing might have spoiled us to where like we want to see kaiju films that are quote unquote realistic, that have the right amount of violence, because kaiju films should have violence. There's these giant beasts that are destroying huge cities and killing lots of people and everything. I get that. But I felt this series, and this is probably a quote used against me a million times on future things, but I think that they turned the violence and the, I don't want to say gore because there wasn't more, but like the violence and the eating children and all that stuff as a gimmick. I think the story wasn't good enough to support. I didn't feel like if there would have been one person eaten or anything, and they just showed the kind of the generic kaiju stuff where it's just like, you see the buildings destroyed, but you don't see the people die, that type of thing. I don't think it would have lessened this or made it any better or worse. I really feel like it wasn't earned. It was like, we're going to have kaiju that need to eat children. Why? We don't need to explain it, just because we have people that love violence and they love kaiju, and we're going to give them that. Whereas like the Heisei films and things that also do this, I feel like it earns it and it's like worthy of it, and the story needs it because it's whatever. This one, I felt like it was just a gimmick. It was just like, we're going to throw some violence in here and whatever. And I just didn't feel the story was good enough to support it. And like I said, it goes back to the whole concept is they eat children, but why? Like, why? And if you're going to do something that drastic and that different from other kaiju films, like at least explain it to me so I know why I should be doing that, and have a kid that like, I care that he does. I don't want him to get eaten. Like these kids is like, I have no connection to him. Like, get eaten. I don't care, And so like, I just felt like there's so much good in this, the kaiju designs, everything. There's so much that this could have been really good. And I just think that somebody slept on the job when it came to the story piece. And I think it needed a little bit more to support the violence in the film, because it was well done visually. And the story, like having children that are special code holders and the kaiju need to eat the children. Sure, that can work. It just felt like they just added that in there to be like, hey, we're going to be extra cool and realistic and violent and have this thing, and like no reason. So that's why I gave it a D, and it really made me sad. Yeah, no, I agree with that. And here's a couple questions that I don't know if maybe I missed some things or if it was just unexplained. But so
Do they ever really explain, was Gamera originally one of the monsters that they brought and he just happened to be a good guy? What did they explain?
Yeah, it was
why he's a good guy and not
when they went back when like they touched the the Aurelium or whatever, they went back and they saw like there was the one of like it was a child or somebody like climbing the hill and like reaching out and saying, "Save us, help us, Gamera," or whatever. So I don't know if they went into many details, but yeah, it kind of Gamera broke off from the other kaiju. But like once again, I don't know. And I could have missed it too because it was been a couple days since I've watched it.
But then they also like when Gamera's fighting that last Gauss, it like injects Gamera, and they're like, "Oh, we injected Gamera with the virus," and I'm like, "What virus? What are you talking about?" And then he becomes bad for 10 seconds.
Yeah, and then why?
And he just shakes his head, and he's not bad anymore. It would have been a more interesting show to me if, the last episode starts. You have no more kaiju. Get rid of the Gauss, and let the whole last episode be about Gamera. Gamera is a bad guy in the last episode.
That'd be really cool.
Kids have to use their. There's the one kid who has the kind of the connection with Gamera. Whenever Gamera's arm cuts off, he does the thing
because he has the code. Yeah,
that's like a trope. You're like you were just saying. There's always one kid who kind of like let the last episode be about how that kid has to figure out how to,
that'd be amazing.
Make Gamera a good guy again, and that's it.
Please
you don't have to have another kaiju. Just let the last episode be Gamera as a bad guy. We've never seen Gamera as a bad Gamera, really. Like a little bit, but not enough. That would have been a great ending. Cool.
Yeah, I think that would have been way better. And they should definitely hire you to do that. That should have been the final episode. But once again, I want to be like clear, like none of the things that happened like by themselves are bad. I just like they just felt kind of thrown in.
Yeah,
there. Like all of the stuff could have worked, and that's why like I think there's like this needed to be like 12 episodes, or it needed to be like maybe even like a little shorter and really focus on like less of the elements. Yeah,
but there's like 3 episodes before they start telling you what the deal is. They could have started off immediately. Like when there's only 6 episodes, you got to start getting into the story right away. I think it's not until maybe the end of the 3rd episode that they start giving you a little bit of an explanation to what's happening and why there's monsters at all.
You know what it needed? It needed to take a cue from Skull Island, the anime, and have a really good flashback episode, like one that's back there, like to explain a little bit more, because that would have been also very cool to kind of see the origins and this stuff. But yeah, like I said, I just felt like they just kind of like the last episode or 2 episodes, they just threw a lot of stuff out there, and I was like, okay, now she's bad right away, and here's this and that, and like what the hell's going on? I did like the scene where the Foundation, like the folks that are kind of stuck on the moon, they get like destroyed, like that one. Their wine that was great. But overall, like I just thought like the story just it was the weakest part of the whole thing.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Okay, so overall great. So where do you like factoring all that stuff in there? What do you give it? And then of course I wanted to do this. I thought this would be fun. Where do you rate it between like kind of the bigger anime kaiju Tokusatsu animes that have come out recently? Start the trilogy. We have Ultraman. I know you only watched season 1. That's the best season. So like, let's watch that one. Singular Point, and then Skull Island, which we recently watched.
If I'm giving it an overall grade, I'm probably giving it like a 7. You know what I mean? Like it was fine. It was really fun. I'm really happy it exists. A lot of good stuff in there, but it's not a singular point. You know what I mean? Yeah. So if I had to fit it somewhere, God, if I had to rank all 5 of these, listen, Singular Point's number 1. I'm probably putting the Godzilla anime trilogy as number 2. I'd maybe put Gamera under that, and then Skull Island,
and then Skull Island.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. I have it as a C overall, with some really high highs, kaiju design. I think that it's a C, but it had elements that could have made it an A. Like it really did. Like I think there was just things, and you can say that about a lot of things. With you, I agree with you. Singular Point's number 1 with a bullet. Big gap between the next one. I would probably say season 1 of Ultraman would be number 2 for me. then I would have to rewatch some of the Godzilla trilogy. My gut tells me Godzilla trilogy, then Gamera, and Skull Island. And with Skull Island being the bottom for sure, but still that one's just, it's fine.
Yeah, it's
but
fine.
I would say Skull Island, if it was just the flashback episode, would be up at the top.
Yeah,
right under Singular Point. It had the best single episode.
Skull Island was perfectly fine. It was fun. It's just that nothing. There's nothing groundbreaking in it. There's nothing.
Gamera's definitely better than Skull Island.
Yeah.
I would have to debate between Gamera and the Godzilla trilogy. That second one I really just didn't like, but I have to rewatch it. It's been a while. So I'll probably put Godzilla ahead of it now just because I do think it was better than Gamera, but it would be in that space. I really liked Ultraman season 1, but even that's like in that grouping, that's probably one of those, like, it's a cluster, with Singular Point definitely being 1, Skull Island definitely being number 5, and the other 3 kind of battling it out. But I mean, at the end of the day, they're all good. And I'm glad they all exist. And they're super fun.
I'm really happy that there's like a Kaiju animated like universe. Now, I mean, I know they're not all in the same universe, but we have 5 different, animated Kaiju things. And that's great.
And I'm not even including, because I didn't watch it, like the Pacific Rim, the Black, that animated or anime. Right. I know that's
I forgot that existed.
Yeah. And so I know that's good. And there's going to be other ones I know coming out. But I do hope, and here's my kind of like major takeaways, like overall, this has been received very positively. Yeah. People like it. I hope it does great numbers, because I would love to see Gamera come back with a live action film.
Yeah.
I really hope this is a test for it. And if we need to rewatch this 75 times to get that to happen, I will. Yeah. I'm totally good with that. But that was my takeaway. Like, I just hope this is good enough and gets enough eyeballs and enough pub that we get a live action one.
Yeah, and I want a physical media box set of all of these Japanese kaiju shows.
I know.
I'm so annoyed that I don't have any of these in physical media. It bothers me, Jay. Yeah. I look at my DVD shelf. I have a whole shelf that's Godzilla, and it's everything except for the Netflix stuff, and it just is annoying.
You would think that would be an easy way for them to make money, because you would think that. I mean, I don't know the dollars.
It's Netflix. Well, it's a Netflix thing. Netflix doesn't. Yeah. Nothing that's an original Netflix show has physical media. It just doesn't. It doesn't happen. They don't do it. They want you to have Netflix.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense for them. It does make sense for me. But that's. Oh man, that's crazy. But overall, hey, we have a Gamera anime.
Yeah. I'm glad, dude. I always it's weird because Gamera kind of came out of nowhere, and it's just like I said this earlier, it's an exciting time for us. It's an exciting time for Kaiju. Gamera, Ultraman still go. There's still Ultraman stuff all the time.
Always.
Like
Kamen Rider. Have you watched it yet?
Nah, dude.
Boo! Are you just worried that you're gonna love it so much?
It's like, I know, man. I got to get on it.
Maybe that's the next Jake and Jess date night. You sit down and you watch Kamen Rider, and then you guys go out and buy lots of cool Shin Kamen Rider Kamen Rider toys.
That's what I'm worried about. I don't want to buy any more toys.
I'm gonna start. Hey, on the next one, I'm gonna have the days since Jake, or days that have lapsed since Jake has watched Shin Kamen Rider, or until he watches it since like the release date, and we'll have a counter at the bottom until you finally watch it. But yes,
cool, man. Listen, you got anything else?
I don't. Welcome back. Glad to have you back, buddy.
Thanks, dude. Well, I'm excited. We're gonna get out of here, and hopefully in 2 weeks I'll have watched Shin Kamen Rider.
Yes.
And if not, Jay's going to make fun of me.
That's the plan.
All right. Bye, guys.
Adios.